Honestly, your crazy real-life drama belongs on Netflix, and I would watch. These are not Reddit stories. These stories were submitted by you guys. The first story wants to be left anonymous. I had my heart broken by the girl I loved when she got pregnant from a one-night stand. This story involves me, 27 male, and my previous fling, who I will call Olivia, 26 female. A little background about us. We met in high school and remained good friends over the years. Even though we never dated while in high school, I always had a liking for Olivia because she was always very nice to me, and she was always someone I could go to when I needed to talk to someone. High school wasn't the best experience for me, and Olivia was a big help. You can easily say when you spend enough time around a certain someone, you develop feelings for them, and that is exactly what happened. I liked her, but she was in a relationship with another guy. Not the point, but out of curiosity, did you guys like your high school experience? I feel like every time it comes up in conversation, some people are like, I loved high school, and other people absolutely hated high school. Personally, I loved high school. Was it perfect? Absolutely not, but I have more good than bad from high school. So I'm curious, how did you find high school? What was your high school experience? Another thing to point out, Olivia's family is from Ecuador and would always spend the summer there with her family, so I wouldn't get the chance to see her as much, so my feelings for her drifted as time went on. A few years ago, Olivia came back into my life when she reached out to me and asked if I wanted to meet up. In my mind, I was unsure about whether to accept or not because we hadn't seen each other in years, and I'm not the same person I used to be in high school, or so I thought. I felt like there was nothing wrong with doing so I accepted. We met up for dinner and it was a great time. We reconnected and we rebuilt up our friendship. Keep in mind, I was just trying to keep things on a friendly level and nothing else. However, as time went on, feelings for her started coming back. At this point in time, Olivia was working as a bartender at a local restaurant where I would drive 30 minutes every once in a while to visit her. Her face would light up every time she saw me, and I always enjoyed our time together. She'd always be sure to take a few minutes out of her day to talk to me and always share a laugh. I always made sure to tip her really well, and on Valentine's Day, I brought her a flower and a love note. I'm reading it happy. I forgot that this has a sad ending. I told her I loved her, and she told me she loved me. I felt like the luckiest man alive because she was the most beautiful woman in the world, and she loved me for who I was. I gave her a kiss and I drove home all happy and pumped. After that moment, I decided that it was the perfect time to officially ask her to be my girlfriend. But I had no idea what was going to come next and that it would leave me heartbroken. For context, it was the beginning of summer and Olivia was going to a bachelorette party in Nashville for the weekend, and we arranged to meet up once she got back. I didn't hear from Olivia for a few days, and that's because something unthinkable happened. I discovered that Olivia was pregnant. She didn't even have the heart to tell me. I had to find out on Facebook. I had to look a second time to make sure what I was looking at wasn't a joke, and I really wish it was a joke. Lots of emotions were going through my mind, and my heart literally sank, and it really set in. I needed to take some time to reflect on what to say because I had a whole thing planned out for asking her to be my girlfriend, and now I realized that wasn't going to happen. Why didn't you tell me? I thought that we had a great thing going on, and I was going to ask you to be my girlfriend. Why did this happen? She responded by claiming it was a one-night stand that happened because she got drunk. I'm sorry for not reaching out to tell you because it was very unexpected and I'm still trying to process it all. I think we need to just stay friends considering the situation. Needless to say, I was absolutely devastated. I did have tears in my eyes while reading this. So many things were going through my mind. How could she do this to me? I thought we had something going and then this happened. I didn't get to see Olivia for 2 weeks until I managed to find time to visit her. I confronted her about it and I later learned that the guy who she had slept with didn't want anything to do with the baby. That really made me angry because despite how angry I was at Olivia, I didn't feel the same way as the guy did. At this point, I'm pouring out all my emotions to Olivia because I felt like I had nothing to lose. I might as well just throw all my cards on the table. I love you and I want to be with you. I will help you raise the baby because you mean that much to me, and I will raise her as if she were mine. FYI, I have always lived under the condition that I would never be with someone with a kid, but because of me and Olivia's history and because of the situation, I felt I would make an exception because I loved her and I would do anything to show her how much she meant to me. I tried very hard to convince Olivia to give us a chance, but sadly, she didn't want to. She felt like it was unfair to drag me into this mess and she didn't want to ruin our friendship. At this point, our friendship was pretty much ruined because I only wanted to be with her in an intimate relationship. Despite how I felt, I didn't want to cause a scene or get into an argument. I just politely accepted and then I walked away. And that was the last time I ever saw Olivia. A couple months later, she delivered a healthy baby girl. I was happy for her, but also couldn't help but still feel heartbroken because of everything that happened. To this day, I'm still feeling the effects of this whole thing, and even though it's gotten better, I still have those days where I reminisce about the whole what could have been. Sometimes I ask myself, maybe I should have done something differently, or if I played it too nicely. But regardless, at least I still managed to tell Olivia how I felt in the end, even though it was too late. That's so heartbreaking, especially because the timing of your crush in high school, it didn't work out. Now that it like came back into your life, you're like, oh my God, this could be it. Like she came back into my life for a reason. We're gonna be together forever. You probably got your hopes up that it was finally happening. Oh, that's really sad. It wasn't meant to be. I'm like secretly hoping there's an update and you're like, she came back into my life and we're happily married. I'll look for it. I will. You never know. It's not too late. Even 5 years from now, what if it happened? I'm getting your hopes up. I might not be helping. The next story also wants to be left anonymous. My dad and uncle set my neighbor's car on fire on Christmas Eve. Throwaway account because I do not want my dad or uncle finding this, especially the now deceased neighbors' families. If you love Christmas comedy, this is straight out of one. First of all, this took place in the 90s, and let's be honest, that if social media or cell phones were around, both my dad and uncle would be serving time. That's so true, because you know that video would be viral on the internet. Involved are me, 40 male, who was 17 at the time, my dad Harry, and my uncle Seth. I believe the statute of limitations on that has passed, so I can acknowledge it now. I'll start with some context so you get the idea of how this crap show came about. And if you haven't already gotten the idea, I come from a dysfunctional family. We all get along very well, but my family has a long history of doing some very dumb yet hilarious stuff. I'm the oldest of 11 children. Oh my gosh. See, that would be so much fun as kids, no? Also chaotic and it could be not fun, but it could be fun. I had with my stepsister and my brother, my half brother, when all of us were together, there was 5 of us. And I swear, I thought that was just so much fun, like having that many siblings. I have 4 younger sisters, Amy, 15, Charlotte, 12, Gretchen, 9, Jill, 7, and 2 youngest brothers, Mark, 3, and Oliver, newborn at the time. All of these ages were at the time. 7 of us all have the same mom, but have 3 different dads amongst us, including step-parents. My mother was married to my biological dad, and they had me, Amy, and Charlotte together, and they ended up divorcing not long after Charlotte was born. My mother then had both my youngest sisters with her then boyfriend, who is no longer in the picture in any way. And then she had my 2 youngest brothers with her new husband, my stepfather, but they're now divorced. My dad remarried to another woman who I looked to as a stepmother who is now passed away. Oh, I'm so sorry. They were married for 24 years and they had 2 girls together. Also, both sides of the family contain so much baggage, such as abusive backgrounds, criminal history, and cousins getting married to each other. Okay, so maybe not the type of fun I was referring to. Like I said, we are very dysfunctional, and if you probably guessed, being the oldest was still to this day a lot to handle. Because of all the dysfunction between all of our parents, I had to step up and be the man of the house and take care of my youngest siblings in order to keep the family together and keep them from going into foster care after their father left them. At the age of 12, I took up a side job as a busboy at a restaurant to help provide for us. It's also very important to note that both Mark and Oliver were both born with special needs, siblings that require lots of support, and because we were poor, we didn't have the financial resources that they needed to keep up with their schooling and social skills. So they were homeschooled for most of their early educational years. One more thing about my Uncle Seth is he is the real-life Cousin Eddie from the National Lampoon's Christmas movie. He lives in a trailer park, he is a redneck, he drinks a lot, and he always has an act of causing chaos whenever the family is together for the holidays. But what happened on this particular Christmas Eve takes the cake. So, as per family tradition goes, we always hosted the Christmas get-together at our house, which usually consisted of 50 people between us siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, and step-parents. So we're all eating dinner, and things are going as planned. We're all just joking and telling crazy stories. Both my dad and Uncle Seth were clearly drunk because they started a food fight with multiple people. After some time went by, my Uncle Seth stood up and made an announcement. "Go to the front yard, we are burning a car." What? At first, I was confused and dumbfounded because I thought this was just some drunk joke. But no, Uncle Seth kept insisting to us that he was serious. We make our way to the front yard, and sure enough, there's my dad pouring a can of gasoline all over our neighbor's old junky SUV. For context, we lived in the suburbs and had about half an acre of land between us and the neighbors. Our next door neighbor was a retired demolition derby redneck who always kept some old beaten up cars in his backyard next to his work shed. It consisted of many old school demolition vehicles like Chevy Impalas and SUVs. He was also that typical grumpy old man who didn't get along with anybody. He and my dad always got into verbal altercations because my dad didn't like the fact of having to always see his beaten up cars in his backyard. He wasn't home when all of this happened. Back to the main story. My dad and Uncle Seth poured gasoline all over the junky 70s SUV, and almost everyone in the family joined in. This is crazy though. The only ones who didn't were myself, stepmother, grandmother, and my youngest siblings. My grandma tried to talk them out of it, but if you knew my dad and uncle, there was no talking them out of it. After the car was doused in gasoline, my dad used his cigarette lighter to light a firecracker and tossed it inside the car. The car burst into flames and bits and parts of it exploded, but it didn't faze anyone. All the guys were cheering and shouting "Merry Christmas" as this whole thing went down. The car burnt all the way down until all that was left was the body of it and the rims of where the tires were supposed to be. Just to keep in mind, there were no cell phones or security cameras around. No one other than all of us witnessed the whole thing happen. After the car finally stopped burning, the men in the family had to dispose of it. From what I've been told, my grandpa, who's a farmer, got the car loaded onto his trailer and he... What? Along with my dad and Uncle Seth, drove it to a junkyard and dumped it there and drove away. As for the area in the backyard where the car burned, we all threw grass seeds and a pile of snow on top of it so that way our neighbor wouldn't find out. He did notice the car was missing, but never suspected who it was. To this day, we never told anyone that story. Our neighbor passed away a couple years later, so we don't have to worry about him or his family finding out. And I believe the statute of limitations on this whole fiasco has passed, so I can acknowledge it anonymously now. I feel like if the family found this story, they would be able to piece together it was that, like, his car. That is so bizarre. So to him, he's probably sitting there being like, someone stole my junky car that didn't work? Like, did they come and just tow it out of there? Like, how does a car just disappear? But he probably would never think my neighbors burnt it down and got rid of the evidence. Wild. And yes, I'm sure they would absolutely be serving time because very illegal and wrong. Not encouraging that by any means. But thank you for sharing. We have another crazy story, but we're gonna drink some water first. It's hydration station time. You know the drill. Cheers. Got my party cup today. Went with pink. You guys know how I'm obsessed with teddy bears. Look at the PJ set I just bought, and wait to go with it. Look at these slippers and the little, oh my God, there's more than one teddy bear on the sock. I didn't even notice that. Look at the little socks. Okay, someone's hammering downstairs, but just want to show you all my teddy bear finds. All right, so the next story also wants to be left anonymous. This took place from around 2020 to 2022. I, female 27 at the time, took a temp job because I was laid off from my 9 to 5 when the shelter-in-place order was announced in the spring of 2020. This is when I met the coworker, let's call her Haley, 40 female. Haley constantly complained about her husband, let's call him Patrick, 42 male, and tried to get me to commiserate about my partner. Over the course of a few months that we worked together, I learned about Haley's family background, her siblings and her parents, who got divorced due to her mother's infidelity. According to her, her father worked a high-pressure corporate job. He was rarely around, which caused her mother to feel neglected and seek attention elsewhere. Personally, I would have sought counseling or communicated with my partner, but okay, sure. Cheating is totally the answer. Am I sensing some sass and sarcasm? I love it. They had an amicable divorce, co-parenting arrangement, and were eventually remarried to different partners. Haley talked extensively about how her mother's family loathed her husband, Patrick. According to her, they didn't think he tried hard enough to be part of their family whenever he came along with her to visit them out of state. They also didn't like how he was only a retail store manager and how he barely made enough to support the both of them. As a result, Patrick stopped coming with her. Prior to the shelter-in-place ordinance, Haley said she was a corporate accountant through an agency that serviced Fortune 500 clients. She earned higher than Patrick, so she paid the majority share of the expenses. Haley ranted about everything she despised about her husband, how he initiated intimacy and how unsatisfying the whole ordeal was for her, how little money he made, how he never wanted to get married but wanted her to move in, and so she gave him an ultimatum. Sounds very healthy. His proposal was along the lines of, here's a ring, want to go to the courthouse? At some point, I asked if she ever discussed her grievances with Patrick or if she's ever considered couples counseling. But she dismissed the idea and told me, you're young, you'll understand when you and your partner get married. When I informed her that my partner and I rarely fought and that we preferred to communicate the differences, she looked at me with a mix of what I perceived as a mix of skepticism and disdain and said, that's kind of boring. How do you keep it exciting? Mutual hobbies and interests? Different strokes for different folks, I suppose. Some thrive in conflict while others like to call it boring. 3 months or so into my temp contract, I found a permanent position closer to my residence, so I resigned. Haley texted me within the same week of my last day and told me that she also decided to leave. She didn't have another job lined up, but expressed that she felt miserable, so she just called it quits. She planned to lie to Patrick by telling him the contract ended and that she would be receiving unemployment. Her mother agreed to financially support her in that break. That money would be the unemployment. I didn't hear from Haley other than the happy birthday, hope you're well messages that we would send each other annually. Around summer of 2022, she asked if I could meet up with her to catch up. I met with Haley at a local restaurant close to her residence. We discussed jobs, family, and eventually her divorce from Patrick. Who is surprised by that? Certainly not me. I don't even think she liked Patrick by the sounds of it. She got into another fight with him, but at the time, Patrick was more vile than usual, so she reached her breaking point. She decided it would be best to cool off, so she visited an out-of-state family on her mother's side. During her trip, she ran into a high school friend who had recently been divorced due to all of his own wife's infidelity. He owned a local business, and best of all, her mother approved of him because he had more money than Patrick. At first, it started out as casual hangouts, but quickly turned physical. Her out-of-state visits increased in frequency. She constantly declined Patrick's attempts at intimacy, and eventually, he caught on. This, of course, started another screaming match that ended in her demanding a divorce. Keep in mind, this is the same woman who demanded Patrick marry her when he didn't even want to be married in the first place, lied to him about the temp assignment ending, while her cheater mom funded her lifestyle until she got a new job, and then she cheated on her husband. Quite the perspective when you put it like that. She told me the reason she wanted to catch up was because she was planning to leave as soon as the divorce was finalized in a couple of months or so. She didn't want reminders of Patrick or risk any chances of running into mutual friends, so she wanted to go back to her home state where she could have familiar company and financial support from her parents. Well, and also be with her new lover. No, are they not together? She also gushed about how as soon as she found employment at her home state, that she would be living, with her affair partner. Thank you. She gloated about how she was an upgrade compared to his ex and how the ex was a Midwest pretty, but that's about it. When I asked for clarification, she said something along the lines of them looking like a basic white girl, but inbred because they all live on a farm. Yikes. That's rude. She also told me about how Patrick started dating again. According to her, they established house rules when it came to women, which included not bringing them over when she was around and never talking to women within an earshot of her. She went on about one particular incident when Patrick had a spicy phone call with a woman in his bedroom and how she could hear it from the guest room where she slept because of the thin walls. Oh my God, that is so uncomfortable. She was convinced that he was doing it to spite her because he knew that she could hear their conversation. When she confronted him about it, she said that he had the gall to tell her that they wouldn't have been in their current situation if she hadn't cheated on him. Duh. She said she started crying after hearing him say those words and she felt defeated because technically he was right, but that she wouldn't have cheated on him if he wasn't so mean to her all the time. Honestly, since she was leaving, I didn't see the point in calling her out on any of her BS. This woman was beyond help. She was getting a divorce anyway, so I just listened to the mess unfold over my nachos and blended margarita. When the night concluded, we wished each other well. All I can say after all of this is, like mother, like daughter. I never met Patrick personally, but he seemed nice over the phone. I hope he lives a peaceful life without Haley. Wow. I felt like I knew where that story was going. I was like, there is no way that Haley and Patrick end up together, like happily. No way. Not a chance. Anyways, let me know your thoughts and feelings. These are your stories. So the Sass Squad is going to be in the chat below and I'll see you there. Stay classy out there. Stay sassy. See you tomorrow.